Hey everyone, welcome to the Tailwind to Success podcast. My name is Ben Gonzalez and I have Jeremy Langlitz with me. And as usual, we are here to provide practical and authentic information to help you as a business owner level up both your team and your business. We want to help you. And so that's why we're here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a message that was posted in a Facebook group, the Blue Collar Millionaire, and it was really, really good in question to that they asked. It's actually like a 5-parter, Jeremy. I think it was. There was like several different questions that they had asked, but this is from Hunter Jablonski. I really hope I'm pronouncing that semi correctly. Probably not.
No.
How do you pronounce it, Jeremy?
Um,
All right. Well, don't disagree, but let's stay on track here. So they said, anyone on here have a business or multiple with 50 plus employees, would like to pick someone's brain on how to maximize efficiency and ensure that people are staying on task and stuff is getting done, how to retain employees, what systems are being used to streamline communications between teams, etc. We are in the junk removal and demolition business. Employees are spread across multiple locations in different states. We are currently at 47. Man, that is a really, really good question and a great question to be asking in a group like this specifically. Obviously, people have commented on it, and we're going to comment on it as well. But I have some thoughts, but Jeremy, I'd love to kick it over to you, sir. What is, like, from the macro sense? Obviously, we can get into specifics, but this type of question where they're getting into a position where they have a lot of employees across multiple states, multiple locations. Why is this kind of question really important for a business owner to be asking themselves and other people?
This is a typical question that many businesses have, especially as they scale and they get closer to the 50 mark, right? That's when certain regulations start coming into place. That's when they start having to maybe go back and look at their CRM, look at the way that they're doing accounting. All of those things come into play the larger you go. And even with this guy, it looks like is it 47 states? Is that what I'm reading that he's in?
I think he's 47 employees.
47 people. Yeah. Okay. But it's in different states.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also a big task all of its own, right? As we manage several different businesses, and some of them two of them are multi-state, and we can tell you how difficult that is just dealing with state regulations and crossing state lines. It could become a real hassle for business owners. So this is a great time to start asking questions about efficiency and how to retain employees, especially in a national brand.
Yeah, it's one thing if you have a team that's in, one shop, there's 10 people, everyone comes into the same place every morning, you see each other's faces, you talk to them in person, and if you have something that needs to be adjusted, changed, new process, whatever, the communication is pretty simple, like, hey, I'm here with you and let's talk about it, or sending a quick email. But as you start to scale and get to the point where the information that's being communicated to people is probably going to start getting more complex. And so streamlining communication, which, i.e. getting to that point, simplify. But getting to the point where things are starting to get more complex, it starts to get more real, I guess I would say. And so, again, they're asking the right questions. And so I think it'd be great for us to start diving in a little bit more deeper on that first question they asked, is how do you maximize efficiency and making sure people are staying on task with stuff and getting things done? The first thing that I would say, and I'll kick it over to you in a second, is individuals need to have very, very clear goals. So for a person that's employed with you, in the job description, which is kind of always your fallback, is it clearly lined out on the outcomes that this individual needs to be producing for the business to add value to it? Is that clearly defined? And are there metrics set in place to communicate whether that person is producing the outcomes or not producing the outcomes? And so that type of information needs to be clearly defined in a job description, and they need to know that. And so you need to communicate expectations to them on what output they should be producing and then how to go about doing that. And that gets more into like training and the structure that you put in place to educate and support your team members. But Jeremy, what are your thoughts on that part?
I think this does go into, part of the second question, which is basically what are some software and communication devices that are being used to make that happen, right? Having process is important. It's one of the key things to have, especially as you get bigger. And some people hate process. There's a book that we just read called The Dirty Word, and it just goes into how people don't necessarily like to deal with processes because it puts people kind of in a box, but it really shouldn't. But that's a different topic for a different day. But having a process that then is being trained to people and having a way to communicate that process to people is very important. In making sure that you have a system in place using software to communicate is very important.
Yeah. I also think it's really, really easy in this stage that they're in to overcomplicate what that means. And so you mentioned like utilizing technology to streamline communication and just in general for their business, utilizing a CRM, which I'm sure that they're already using. But the point is that it can get really hairy really quickly. And so, like, again, you have to focus on outputs. What is someone producing and what is the team producing? What is the business producing? And if you overcomplicate what that means, it's going to be really hard to actually follow through with it. And so my encouragement would be to, in this season of their business, focus on creating clear expectations on what the outcomes are that need to be for the individual and the team and the business, but try to make them as simple as humanly possible, and don't use technology and slash spend money in areas that are just not necessary. And I also personally believe in saying that it's kind of vague, but at the same time, you as a business owner understand what is helping the business, like what is adding value as far as like a software or not. And if it's not adding value and it's wasting money, you can't waste time on exiting it and getting rid of it. I think that is a really good point, sir. Getting to the next part on retaining employees. In my opinion, people are happier when they know what they should be doing and they know whether they are doing it or not doing a good job. And so, number one, the points that we just walked through, if you can execute on those fundamentals well, I think people will be happy. And excluding culture, which we can talk about in a second, but having those clear definitions of success and putting measures in place to know whether someone is succeeding or not, in that regard. But secondary to that is people are generally happier when they know they have a pathway to do something else. So they have a pathway to be in a different position, whether that's managing and leading other people or in like a totally different division. But if they know that there's opportunity and there's a pathway to get to the next step and the next level, I think it goes a long way to show individuals that they are valued and they can continue to elevate in their own professional careers.
I would also be curious to know with this person, what kind of feedback are they getting from their employees? Both the ones that are still there at the job, but the ones that maybe are leaving, especially ones leaving on good terms, right? Trying to figure out why you aren't retaining them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you know that, then you can start to feel what are the rewards that people are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger and why I would leave a job, it was tempted because I just got tired of doing the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do more. I wanted to develop my leadership skills, and the job I had just wasn't letting me do that. And at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in some ways, right? Some jobs you're there because you just have a job to do, and it's okay to move on to the next position. And we should, embrace that as business owners and say some people they're just here for they're here for a season.
Yeah.
If you're not at a place where you can create positions to keep somebody and they go out and find a job somewhere else that's better for them, give them a pat on the back, give them your blessing, a great referral, and then let them go. And then just
one thing that was always really impactful for me, when I specifically working at Chorby, was when I first started in kind of a very different career move for myself. One thing that made a big difference for me is that the culture was supportive of an individual's growth without strings attached to it. So like we want to help you improve in, your own professional skills, and whether you stay or not is your choice. And it's not, that level of effort and attention that was being put into me. I think that truly, if I decided to pick up and go somewhere else, it would be a positive thing, not a negative thing. And so I think if that's a part of your culture, that you're, essentially a residency program, you're there to help train and develop regardless of someone's future potential at your organization. Having that mindset and communicating that with your actions and words goes a long way in retaining team members. And then the other thing I was going to mention with that, as we start to close out, is you'd mentioned like getting feedback. I saw it in a recent article that was talking about, instead of focusing on exit interviews, focus on stay interviews, which is essentially what you just said, is meeting with your team members and getting feedback on what are the positives, what are the negatives, and taking action on both of those things, whether it's positive or negative. Like we want to make the positive things even better, and we want to address the negative things as we can and improve them. But getting setting aside specific time to get an individual's honest feedback, if we can get it, and then taking action on it, I think goes a really long way for individuals to show that we care about them, that you care about them, and you're for them, So the last thing I'll say is they brought up the perspective on like they're managing team members and services across multiple states. Again, when you get into the regulatory issues of being across state lines, that can get really dicey really quickly if you don't have the knowledge and expertise on how to manage that. That is something that we do at White Picket Team, and we'd love to talk to you. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about that and consult with us, a free consultation to pick our brains on any specific questions that you have, we'd love to hear from you. So reach out to us. Jeremy, another great episode, sir. Looking forward to the next one.